Hi, my name is Isolde Calloway, and 2 weeks ago, I walked into my brother's promotion party with a gift in my hands, and walked out with blood dripping from my mouth, while 70 people just watched. My father hit me so hard, the music stopped. My mother laughed, like it was a comedy show. And my brother? He clapped and sneered. You had it coming. But here is the twist. They thought that night would silence me. Instead, it gave me the one weapon they never expected. Proof. If your own blood humiliated you in front of a crowd, would you stay quiet? Or would you fight until every secret they buried saw the light? Before we continue, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. We share new stories every single day. Hit like and let us know what city you are watching from in the comments. I do not even know why I came. That thought kept circling in my head as I stood pressed against the ballroom's side wall, clutching my purse as if it could shield me from everything. The room was all marble floors and chandeliers, the kind of glittering place my parents loved to flaunt, the kind of place I never truly belonged. 68 people dressed to perfection, every one of them here for my brother's celebrated night. My older brother, the decorated hero, the golden child, and me. I was just Isolde, the daughter they rarely mentioned, the sister they pretended did not exist, until it was convenient to make me the punchline. I told myself I came because it was the right thing to do, because you show up for family even when they never show up for you. That is what I repeated as I lingered at the back, watching my mother, Sylvia, glide from guest to guest as if she owned the entire room. Her pearls caught the light as easily as her practiced fake smile did. My father, Leonard, was already by the bar, holding court with a few of my brother's military buddies. And there he was, my brother Dorian, basking in it all, letting everyone fawn over him like he had not been cutting me down since I was old enough to speak. Nice that you came, Marjorie Pike, a woman I barely knew, said as she walked past, her tone polite but strained. Nice that I came. Like this was some act of charity on my part. I forced a smile and nodded. Would not miss it, I lied. My mother spotted me then, her smile thinning just enough for me to see the truth beneath. She walked over, heels clicking like tiny hammers on the polished floor. You did not need to come if you had nothing nice to say, she murmured, loud enough for a nearby couple to hear. They glanced at me with that look, pity mixed with entertainment. I did not realize existing counted as commentary, I said softly. And her eyes narrowed. Before I could retreat, my brother appeared, drink in hand, his medals shining like his ego. Oh, Isolde, he said, his voice too loud, too casual. I almost forgot you do. Whatever it is you do, graphic design. That is cute. I guess not everyone can serve their country. He smiled, sipping his drink like his words were not designed to sting. Something inside me snapped. At least what I do does not come with a built-in fan club, I replied just as lightly, even though my hands were trembling. The smirk on his face faded for a second, but before I could savor it, a shadow loomed over us. My father, his jaw tight, his eyes already bloodshot. What did you just say? His voice was low, dangerous, the kind that makes your stomach drop. I opened my mouth to answer, but I did not get the chance. He moved faster than I thought a man his age could. The crack of his fist connecting with my face was louder than the string quartet. The music stopped. Conversation stopped. My world stopped. Pain exploded through my jaw, and for a moment, I could not even process what had happened. Then his hand was in my hair, yanking me backward. I gasped, my scalp screaming as he dragged me toward the exit like I was trash to be taken out. I heard the collective inhale of the crowd, the hush of scandal. But no one moved. Not one of those 68 people stepped in. And then, through the ringing in my ears, I heard it. My mother's laugh, a sharp, delighted sound, like this was the best entertainment she had enjoyed in years. My brother clapped. You had it coming, he said, and I think that cut deeper than my father's fist. The hallway outside was colder, quieter, but it did not feel safer. He let go of me just outside the doors, and I stumbled, catching myself against the wall. My lip was split, blood dripping onto my dress. My scalp ached where his fingers had been. I did not look back. I could not. I walked. No, I ran to the parking lot, every step heavier than the last. By the time I reached my car, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely get the keys out of my purse. I sat in the driver's seat, slamming the door shut as if it could keep out the sound of my mother's laugh. My brother's words, the silence of all those people who had watched and done nothing. In the rearview mirror, a stranger stared back at me, her lips swollen, her hair a tangled mess, her eyes red with tears she did not remember crying. I wiped the blood from my chin with the back of my hand, and whispered to myself, "This is not just another night. This is war." I reached for my phone, fingers trembling, and stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I gripped it tight, took a breath, and said, "It is time." I drove home on autopilot, my hands clamped so tightly around the steering wheel that my knuckles turned white as bone. The hum of the tires against the highway was the only sound in my little car, but inside my head, it was chaos, replaying every second, every look, every word without mercy. My mother Sylvia's laugh, my brother Dorian's smug smirk, my father Leonard's hand crashing across my face. It all swirled inside me like a storm I could not escape. By the time I parked outside my small apartment, the adrenaline had drained away enough for the pain to fully set in. My jaw throbbed in time with my heartbeat, each pulse sharp and unforgiving. I climbed the narrow stairs to my unit, each step heavier, dragging like a weight tied to my ankles. And when I finally pushed open my door, the silence of the place nearly broke me. I wanted to scream until my lungs tore. Instead, I locked the door, leaned against it, and just breathed. Slow, shaky, deliberate breaths. The bathroom light was cruel, unkind. I stood there before the mirror, staring at the stranger staring back at me, my lip grotesquely swollen, the left side of my face already blooming purple, my hair a tangled mess where his fingers had yanked and twisted it, my dress, the one I had saved up for because I wanted to at least look like I belonged tonight, torn badly at the shoulder seam. I did not cry. I could not. It was like my body had decided I had already given them enough. I grabbed my phone, and with hands that refused to stop shaking, I took photo after photo. My face, my ruined dress, my bruised arms, evidence. I kept thinking that word, over and over, evidence. This was not just a bad night. This was not just another bruise I would cover up and pretend never existed. I could not let them bury me in silence again. Sitting on the edge of my bed, I stared at my contacts list, scrolling past names I had not spoken to in years. Then I saw hers, Catherine Hale. Back in law school, she had been brilliant, but broke. One bad semester away from losing everything. I had helped her when no one else would. I remembered slipping her my old textbooks, buying her meals, even covering part of her rent once. "You saved me back then," she had said softly. And now, years later, she was one of the top attorneys in Austin. I pressed her name. The phone rang 3 long times before she answered. "Isolde, it's really you." Her voice was groggy, surprised. "Catherine, My voice cracked, but I forced myself to continue. "I need help. I do not know who else to call right now. Please just talk to me." That was all she said. "Talk to me, Isolde. Just talk." And it was enough. I told her everything. From the moment I walked into that ballroom, to the second I sat alone in my car, blood on my dress and humiliation burning in my veins. I did not hold back this time. No softening, no excuses, just the raw, ugly truth. She never interrupted. When I finally stopped, when my throat felt like sandpaper, she spoke steady and calm. "You need to come by my office tomorrow morning. We will fix this. I promise you that. Something in her tone made me believe her. After we hung up, I sat there for a long moment, staring at the phone, but I was not done. I opened my landlord's contact. Rick Granger. Retired cop turned private investigator. He had always been kind in that distant, watchful way. If there was anyone who could help me stay safe, gather what I needed, it was him. I left a voicemail. Rick, it is Isolde. I need your help. Urgent, really urgent. Please call me when you get this. Within minutes my phone buzzed. A text. You are safe. I will dig. It was not much, but it felt like armor wrapping around me. I moved slowly through my apartment, washing the blood from my face, pulling on an old hoodie, wrapping ice in a dish towel for my jaw. It hurt, but the cold steadied me. Then I sat back on my bed, opened my laptop, and attached the photos I had taken to an email. I typed Catherine's address into the recipient line, my fingers hesitating for just a second before I hit send. As the message whooshed away, I realized my heart was no longer racing. My hands were not trembling. I was not numb anymore. I picked up my phone, held it tightly, and whispered to myself, they do not know what is coming next. Morning came too soon. I had barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his hand coming toward me, felt my scalp burning where his fingers had yanked my hair. I showered, but it did not wash away the shame. I dressed in jeans and a loose sweater, the kind of clothes that made me feel small and unnoticeable, and slid on oversized sunglasses to cover the swelling. My lips still ached with every movement of my mouth, but I did not care. I had somewhere important to be. The streets downtown were hushed for a Saturday morning. As I walked toward Catherine's office, my heart pounded harder than it had the night before. Anger and fear kept taking turns driving me, like two enemies fighting endlessly for control. I had told her I was ready, but was I really? When I reached the glass door of her law firm, my reflection stopped me. A bruised woman, chin slightly raised, daring the world to challenge her again. The receptionist barely glanced at me, before pointing me toward a corner office. Catherine stood as I walked in, crossing the room quickly. Isolde, it is really you. Her voice was low but steady, like she had been waiting for this very moment. She hugged me carefully, mindful of my injuries. Then she pulled back to look at me. Are you ready to burn it all down? Truly ready? I already did, I said softly, meeting her gaze. I already burned it down, in my head last night. She gestured for me to sit. I sank into the leather chair across from her desk. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she asked, tell me everything. Tell me all of it. And I did. Not just last night. I told her about being 14, shoved into a wall for daring to talk back. About my mother, Sylvia, laughing like it was entertainment. About every holiday where I was invisible. Every birthday overshadowed by my brother Dorian's staged achievements. How my father Leonard always said I was wasting my potential, when I pursued art instead of law like him. How my mother would humiliate me in front of family friends, dismissing my work as nothing but cute little projects. Catherine didn't write anything down. She just listened, her hands folded, her face unreadable. This is not the first time he has hit me, I admitted. The words hung in the room like smoke. But this time there were 68 people watching, and they all did nothing. Her jaw tightened. That changes everything, she said firmly. She leaned forward, her voice calm, but charged with purpose. We start with documentation, police reports, medical exams. We make this official and undeniable. Then we send a civil notice, and if they try to bury this, we leak every shred of evidence. Someone in that ballroom filmed it. I know they did. We will find it. I blinked at her. Leak it to who, Catherine? Who would even care? To anyone who matters to them, she replied without hesitation. The army, their colleagues, their precious country club friends, people who will care about their spotless image. The words settled over me like armor. She opened a drawer, pulled out a simple white business card, slid it across the desk. "This is a trauma specialist. You need to start healing, while I start destroying everything they built." I stared at the card for a long moment, ran my thumb along its edge. Healing. The word felt so foreign. "Isolde," she said softly, "you've been surviving in silence for far too long. It's time to live loud, to live as yourself." I nodded. My voice was steady when I answered. "Do it. Do all of it." Walking out of that office, the sun hit me like a challenge. The city was louder now, cars honking, people rushing by, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was just passing through my own life. They wanted me small. They wanted me silent. But if they wanted me silent, they should have left me unbroken. 2 days had passed since I walked out of Catherine's office, and the anger had not left me. It had settled into something colder, sharper, like a blade inside my chest. My face still ached, a dull reminder every time I chewed or tried to smile. Not that I had much reason to, but the bruises weren't the worst part. It was knowing that every person in that ballroom went home, carried on with their night. While I sat in my apartment, trying to remember how to breathe, Rick texted me that morning, "Come by, got something you need to see." I took a long sip of coffee, grabbed my keys, headed down to his unit. Rick Granger had been my landlord for years, a retired cop turned private investigator. He didn't talk much, but he always noticed everything. When I knocked, he opened the door almost immediately, like he'd been waiting just for me. "Isolde," he said, stepping aside to let me in. He handed me a steaming mug. "You look like you really need this badly." I sat at his small kitchen table, the kind of place where you could tell 100 stories, over cheap coffee. He didn't waste time with small talk, just reached under a stack of papers and slid a thick folder across the table. "You need to see this carefully." My stomach tightened. "What is it, Rick? What are you showing me?" "Your family," he said, his voice low and steady. "And not just what happened the other night. This goes deeper, much deeper." I pulled the folder closer, opened it. Bank statements, receipts, screenshots of email threads. My eyes darted over the pages, trying to make sense of them. Transfers from an account I recognized, my trust fund, to names I didn't know. Large amounts. Gone. "Rick," my voice cracked, though I tried to keep it steady. "This is my money. This is all my money." He nodded. "Your father moved funds out months ago, used it to grease the wheels for your brother's promotion. Look at this closely." He pointed to a printout of an email. "Make sure Dorian shines." His father was very persuasive. The room blurred for a second as I stared at the words. My own money, used to celebrate my brother. The same brother who clapped while I was dragged out of that ballroom bleeding. I closed the folder carefully. Like if I didn't, I would rip the pages straight in half. "So it was not earned? Not even a little?" I said finally. Rick leaned back in his chair. "Not even close. This was never earned. This was not just abuse, Isolde. This is theft and fraud." I thought back to my father's voice at every dinner growing up. "You should be grateful for what we give you, what he gave me." But he had been taking from me my whole life. Without thinking, I pulled out my phone, snapped a photo of the most damning page, the one with the email and the bank transfer, side by side. I sent it to Catherine with a single message. "Change of plans. I want it all on record." Her reply came fast. "Then we play dirty." Rick watched me, arms crossed. "What is your next move now? Really?" I stared down at the folder, tracing the edge of the paper with my finger. "My next move," I said slowly, "is making sure they regret every choice that brought us here." Later, I took the folder to a coffee shop near downtown. It felt almost surreal to be somewhere so normal. surrounded by people chatting about work, about weekend plans, while I held evidence that could unravel my family's carefully polished image. I spread the pages out on the table, scanned them again and again, committing every detail to memory. My brother had clapped while I bled. Using money, that was mine. I leaned back, closed my eyes for a moment, breathed through the rage that threatened to choke me. They had turned me into an outsider in my own life, and then used my own resources to build his. They think I will stay quiet, I whispered under my breath. They really do not know me at all. When I parked outside my parents' house, the neighborhood felt artificial as the people waiting inside. Perfectly trimmed hedges, identical mailboxes, houses that looked like they had been printed out of a catalogue. My hands stayed on the steering wheel for a long minute. Catherine's voice echoed in my head from our call earlier that morning. If it feels wrong, you leave. Do not give them anything. I finally unclenched my fingers and got out. The autumn air felt heavy, almost damp, as I walked up the stone path I had walked 1,000 times before. Growing up, I used to imagine I would run away from this house one day. Now, I was walking in by choice, fully aware that they had no idea who they were dealing with anymore. My mother Sylvia opened the door before I even knocked, dressed in one of her pastel cardigans, the ones that always made her look so delicate, so harmless. "Isolde," she said, in that soft voice she used when she wanted to sound like the victim. "Thank you so much for coming." "Let us just get to it," I said flatly, my voice leaving no room for performance. She flinched at my tone, but stepped aside. The house smelled of lemon polish, and whatever expensive candle she had been burning, to mask the stench of tension. My father Leonard was already seated in the formal living room, the kind of space we only ever used for holidays and performative moments like this. Dorian was there too, lounging like he owned the place, his phone in hand, that smirk already plastered across his face. "Isolde," my father Leonard said without even looking up, like I was some subordinate called into his office. "Sit down. Now." I stayed standing. On the coffee table in front of them sat a neat stack of papers. I didn't have to read them to know exactly what they were. Catherine had warned me they might try this. "We asked you here," my mother Sylvia began smoothly, "because we want to resolve this unpleasantness. As a family." Dorian chuckled under his breath. "You mean because she is making a ridiculously big deal out of nothing?" I looked at him, my voice pure ice. "Still riding high off your fake promotion, Dorian? Must be nice to win shiny awards with someone else's stolen money." His smirk faltered, for only a fraction of a second. My father's hand clenched hard on the armrest. "Enough," he barked sharply. "We are here to put this behind us." He slid the papers toward me. "This is an agreement. You will sign it, take a generous payout, and in return, this whole situation disappears completely. No more drama, no more embarrassing the family." I glanced at the top page. Non-disclosure agreement, waiver of legal claims, a gag order, dressed up as a peace offering. "Generous payout," I repeated, picking up the document. "Funny how you truly think my silence has some little price." "It is just a small bruise, Isolde," Dorian said, still lounging, his voice dripping with condescension. "Why blow up the family over something so minor?" I stared at him. "You watched me get dragged out by my hair while you clapped. You think I care about this so-called family?" My mother leaned forward, her voice all syrup mixed with poison. "This will protect everyone's reputation, dear, including your own, if you are wise." That was when I saw it. A small voice recorder tucked near the lamp. Subtle, but not subtle enough. They weren't just trying to buy me off. They wanted to twist my words, if I lost my temper. I put the papers back down carefully. "You know what is funny?" You think I walked in here today as the same Isolde you used to push around? You think I didn't notice the little recorder over there? You think you can throw me pennies from my own stolen trust fund? And make me quietly disappear? My father slammed his hand on the table so hard the coffee cups rattled. Do not you dare play the victim in front of me. I leaned forward, until we were eye to eye. I am not playing anything. I came here to give you a chance. This is not a negotiation. This is your one and only warning. My mother gasped, like I had cursed loudly in church. Dorian laughed nervously, trying to regain ground. You are bluffing, Isolde. I know you are. I picked up my bag, headed for the door. Keep thinking that, if it helps you sleep. Outside, the night air hit me like a splash of cold water. My hands shook, but it was not fear anymore. It was clarity, sharp, undeniable. They thought this was about bruises and signatures. They had no idea what was coming. They wanted me silent, I whispered to myself, pulling out my phone. Instead, I will call someone who makes real noise for a living. The drive out to the diner felt longer than it really was. I rolled the window down just enough to let the night air hit my face, trying to steady my breathing. It was not fear this time. It was the clarity that comes only when you have hit the point of no return. They thought they could scare me into silence, that a little paper and a payoff would erase everything. They did not know me at all. The diner was one of those 24-hour places on the edge of town, where the coffee is always bitter, and the booths have seen better decades. I pulled into the cracked parking lot and immediately spotted Catherine's car. Rick's old truck was parked a few spaces over, the same one he had driven back when he was still working security, for men like my father. Inside, the place was nearly empty. A waitress in a faded uniform gave me a small nod as I walked in, but I didn't stop to order anything. Catherine was in the back booth, her blazer making her look far too polished for this worn-out place. Across from her, Rick looked like he belonged here. Broad shoulders, worn leather jacket. That tired ex-cop posture, that told anyone he had seen far too much. You look like absolute hell, Isolde, Rick said bluntly as I slid into the booth. Good to see you too, Rick, I replied, my voice flat, but steady. Catherine slid a manila folder across the table. I told you it was bad. I didn't realize how bad until Rick dug this up. I opened the folder, stared at the documents inside, bank statements, wire transfers, company filings with names I had never seen before, my trust fund, the one that was supposed to secure my future, had been drained completely through a maze of shell companies. I traced the lines with my finger, my stomach tightening in anger. They didn't just misuse your money, Catherine said, her voice calm, but laced with disgust. They laundered it through Dorian, your brother's promotion, that ridiculous celebration. It was greased with your money. Rick leaned forward, his arms resting on the table. Dorian bragged about it at work, said he was making big moves with family money. He acted like it was some brilliant investment. I kept my mouth shut back then, but I am done protecting him now. I swallowed hard, feeling the heat rise sharp in my chest. So they stole from me, beat me, and then celebrated it in front of an entire audience. Rick gave a short nod. That's about the size of it. Catherine's expression sharpened like glass. This is not just a civil matter anymore, Isolde. This is fraud. Grand larceny, possibly. We can take this to court. We can take it to the press. They will not see it coming. If your own family stole from you, hurt you, and laughed while others watched, would you stay silent or fight back with everything you had? Drop a comment below. Even just type number 1 if you would fight. I closed the folder, letting the weight of the papers sit heavy in my hands. For a long moment. My family had spent years making me believe I was small, powerless, an afterthought. But this was leverage. They thought I wouldn't notice, I said slowly. They thought I would just stay quiet, like always. Catherine leaned back. So, what do you want to do, Isolde? Everything, I said, my voice low, but steady. Civil? Criminal? Public? But on my terms. No one moves, until I say so. Rick glanced at Catherine, then back at me. There's more. One of the guests at the party recorded your father's little outburst. Full video. Him hitting you, dragging you, Dorian clapping like a fool. I can get it. For the first time in days, I felt the corners of my mouth lift into something dangerously close to a smile. Then we're going to give them exactly what they wanted. Attention, but not the kind they can ever control. We stayed there for another full hour, going over every possible option. Catherine outlined detailed timelines and legal strategies, while Rick promised firmly to secure the footage. My coffee grew cold, untouched, but I did not care. This was not about comfort, it was about war. When I finally left, the air outside felt lighter somehow, almost bearable. I drove home in silence. The city lights blurring past me, my mind sharper, harder than it had been in years. They thought I would be silent. They forgot who I truly am. I did not sleep, not a single wink. I sat at my kitchen table, laptop open, every piece of evidence spread out like weapons on a battlefield. Bank transfers, party photos, trust documents. The folder Rick had given me sat front and center. I kept replaying the video in my mind, again and again. My father's fist connecting with my face, the sharp sound of my mother Sylvia laughing, Dorian clapping like I somehow deserved it. They wanted me humiliated. Instead, they handed me ammunition. By mid-morning, I was parked outside Catherine's office. 2 coffees in a cardboard tray, one for her, one for me. When I walked in, she looked up from her desk, did not even bother with pleasantries. "Are you absolutely sure about this?" she asked, eyeing the thick folder I had been clutching like a lifeline. "Yes, I am sure," I said. My voice did not shake this time. Catherine gestured for me to sit. "Once we do this, there is no undoing it. You will be the woman who exposed her own family. You need to be ready for that cost." I sank into the leather chair across from her, placed the folder on her desk. They made me their scapegoat for years. Now, they can be the headline. We went through everything again. The video, the transfers, the emails Rick had found. Catherine drafted an official statement on my behalf, crisp, calculated, framing the assault as part of a larger pattern of coercion and financial exploitation. "This tells your story without turning it into a pity piece," she explained carefully. "It positions you as someone finally reclaiming power." "Good," I said firmly, "because I am done playing victim." By early afternoon, we were sitting at an upscale cafe downtown, the kind of place where people linger over $7 lattes, pretending their lives are not falling apart. I was not there to blend in. I was there to meet Eliza Trent, a journalist I had known back in college. She had built a name for herself writing about corruption in local business circles. She owed me. I had once helped her get out of a sticky situation during an internship, and she had not forgotten it. She arrived 10 minutes late, looking frazzled, but unmistakably curious. "Isolde," she said, sliding into the seat across from me. "You sounded incredibly intense on the phone earlier." "This will explain why," I said, handing her a flash drive and a few printed documents. "There is a video on there. My father, my brother, the whole disgusting thing." She raised an eyebrow. "And you are truly okay with me running this story?" "I want you to," I said plainly, "but I stay anonymous, for now." She nodded slowly, scanning through a few pages of documents. Her eyes widened. "This is not just family drama. This is fraud, and public assault on record. You do realize this will blow up everywhere." "That is the point," I said flatly. Back at Catherine's office, I watched as she hit send on the official statement, forwarding it directly to Eliza. Then we waited. The article dropped within hours. Prominent local businessman caught on camera assaulting daughter over family dispute. Financial exploitation alleged. It was brutal, precise, exactly what I needed. Within minutes, my phone lit up. Messages from distant relatives, old friends, even people I had not spoken to in years. Some were supportive. Others were stunned into silence. Catherine called. "They are panicking right now," she said, her voice tinged with amusement. "Your father already called me twice. He wants to meet immediately." I did not hesitate. "No, you do not even want to hear him out." They wanted silence. Well, they can choke on it now. By the time I left the cafe, social media was ablaze. Clips of my father Leonard dragging me out of that ballroom were everywhere. The comments ranged from outrage to disbelief. "Who does that to their own daughter?" one read. "Imagine being Dorian, clapping while your sister bleeds," said another. As I sat in my car, staring at the endless notifications piling up, a new message buzzed through. An unknown number. "You think you have won? You do not know what is coming." I stared at it for a long moment, my pulse steady, my fingers tightening hard around the phone. Whoever sent that was not my father, and I already knew this fight was far from over. That text was not from Leonard, it was from someone worse. I did not recognize the number, but the words carried the same venom my father used when he wanted me to cower. Only this time, they felt even colder. I did not reply. I did not need to. The message was clear. They were regrouping, and I was the enemy now. I barely slept. When I did drift off, my dreams were a jumbled mess. Dorian smirking at the promotion party, my father's fist striking my face, and my mother's voice, not laughing this time, but whispering in my ear, "You should have stayed quiet, Isolde." When I woke up, I realized it was not a dream. She had actually said that to me once, years ago, after I told a teacher my dad had shoved me. By morning, my phone was buzzing again. I blinked at the screen, heart pounding. There were dozens of messages, some from people I knew, some from strangers who had read the article. "Stay strong," Isolde one read. Another said, "You are brave for speaking up." But then, I saw the others. Liar, gold digger, daddy's girl gone crazy. They had released something. I threw off my blanket and grabbed my laptop, logging into every platform I could. And there it was, a heavily edited clip of the party, in this twisted version. My father was calm, composed, even pleading with me. And me? They had cut together fragments of me yelling after the assault, making it look like I was unstable, like I had caused everything. The comments were already brutal. I felt my stomach drop. They were not just fighting back. They were rewriting reality itself. Catherine's name lit up my phone. "I was just about to call you," she said when I answered. Her tone clipped. "All business. They filed a defamation suit and an injunction. They are trying to shut you up completely." I let out a bitter laugh. "Of course they are." "They hired Victor Drummond," she added. And I froze. Victor Drummond? He is the guy companies bring in when they want to bury scandals deep. "Isolde, this is serious. They are coming hard and fast." "I am not scared of him," I said, though my voice betrayed me with a faint tremor. There was a pause on the other end. "Good, because you cannot be." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with another call. My mother. "Against my better judgment," I answered. "Isolde," she said, and just from her tone, I knew instantly this was not a call meant to make peace. "Mom." My voice was flat, stripped of warmth. "You have gone too far this time." "You have embarrassed us beyond repair," she hissed. "Your father has not left his study in 2 days. Dorian cannot even go into work without whispers. You should have stayed silent." I gripped the edge of the counter, forcing myself not to scream. You watched him hit me, you laughed, and now you are angry at me. For telling the truth? She exhaled sharply, almost bitterly. You think this is about truth? You do not survive in this family by being righteous, Isolde. You survive by knowing when to shut up completely. My throat tightened, but I refused to let her hear me cry. Then I guess I am done surviving. I hung up before she could say another poisoned word. For a moment, I just stood there, staring at my reflection in the microwave door. My hair was a wild mess. My face still had faint bruises, but my eyes, they did not look like the girl who once begged for scraps of approval. They looked like someone ready for war. I drove straight to Catherine's office, not bothering with makeup, not even brushing my hair. She opened the door before I knocked. You look like you did not sleep at all. I did not, I admitted, dropping into the chair across from her. What is our move now? She slid a folder toward me. First, we counter their injunction. Second, we widen the scope. If they want a public fight, we bring the fraud into this. The trust fund. The bribes. Everything. And the video? I asked. We are working on getting the full unedited footage out, she said firmly. Rick's contact is close. Once it is public, their edited version will look exactly like what it is. A pathetic attempt to spin the truth. I nodded. But my mind was elsewhere. My mother's words echoed in my ears. You will not survive this. Catherine leaned forward. Isolde, look at me. I did. You did not come this far just to let them bury you. They are lashing out because they are cornered and scared. That is all this is. I wanted to believe her. I really did. By the time I left her office, the sun was setting. I sat in my car for a long moment, watching the city lights flicker on one by one. My phone was still buzzing with notifications, but I did not look at them. I already knew what I had to do. I scrolled to a number I had not called in years, one that Catherine did not even know about, and hit dial. When the line picked up, I did not bother with pleasantries. It is time, I said. Release everything. I did not just plan revenge, I planned their collapse. Walking up the courthouse steps, I felt the weight of every whisper, every camera flash, every curious stare. They were not looking at me like the black sheep anymore. They were looking at me like someone about to change the story forever. Catherine walked beside me, calm and composed as always, while Rick followed a step behind, carrying the evidence that had taken weeks to compile. Inside, the air was cold, tense. My father was already there, sitting stiffly at the plaintiff's table in a charcoal suit. That probably cost more than my car. Dorian sat beside him, his face pale, his bravado from the promotion party completely gone. My mother, Sylvia, she did not even look up when I walked in. I saw her profile perfectly still, lips pressed so tight they were nearly white. She would not meet my eyes. Catherine leaned over. Remember, she whispered, they are already on the defensive. The judge entered, and the room fell silent. The attorney my father hired, Victor Drummond, stood tall, projecting confidence, his voice booming. Your Honor, my clients have been defamed. Their reputations, painstakingly built over decades, have been dragged through the mud by baseless accusations and a misleading video. I kept my face still, but inside I felt my pulse pounding hard. Misleading? He was really going to call my bruises, my torn hair, and the witnesses misleading. Then Catherine stood. Your Honor, she said, her voice like steel, we not only reject their claims, but we present evidence that my client was the victim of physical assault, financial exploitation, and defamation. All orchestrated by the very same people filing this lawsuit, Catherine said firmly. She motioned to Rick, who carried a thick binder forward, with deliberate steps. The judge gestured for her to continue. Catherine flipped open the binder, began laying it out piece by piece. Bank statements, emails, wire transfers. "This is a paper trail," she declared, "proving that Leonard Calloway, using his authority over Isolde Calloway's trust, siphoned hundreds of thousands of dollars into accounts tied directly to shell corporations. Those corporations then funded his son Dorian's so-called career advancement. This was her money, stolen, laundered, and used to bankroll the very same event, where she was publicly assaulted." Gasps rippled through the room. Dorian shifted uncomfortably in his chair, his bravado slipping away. My father did not flinch, but I saw his jaw tighten until the muscle jumped. The judge's brow furrowed deeply. "Are you prepared to substantiate these claims in full detail?" the judge asked. Catherine nodded without hesitation. "Yes, Your Honor. We have corroborating testimony from financial investigators, as well as documentation from the companies involved, showing the money trail clearly." My father's lawyer, Victor Drummond, sputtered. "This is irrelevant nonsense to the defamation suit." "No," the judge interrupted sharply. "It is highly relevant. If these records are accurate, this court must consider whether the plaintiffs themselves engaged in ongoing criminal conduct. I am unsealing these records for immediate review." That was when it happened. The sound I had been waiting for. Murmurs, gasps, even a few outright whispers from the gallery, reporters scribbling furiously. And my father, for the very first time in my life, looked like a man losing control of the narrative he had always owned. The session recessed for lunch. I stepped outside into the blinding bright sun, cameras already waiting in a tight cluster. Catherine had prepared me carefully for this exact moment. She gave me a small nod of reassurance. Now. I walked straight to the microphones. My voice did not shake. For years, I had let them define me as the problem child, the ungrateful one, the failure no one wanted to claim. But today, standing in front of those cameras, I reclaimed my name. This is not just about what happened to me at a party. This is about years of abuse, financial theft, and coercion. I will not be silent, and I will not be intimidated anymore. Behind me, Catherine handed Eliza the flash drive, the full unedited video of the party. Within an hour, it was everywhere. The internet lit up like fire on dry grass. The clip showed everything in brutal clarity. My father's hand slamming across my face. The way he yanked me by the hair. Dorian clapping, like a spectator at a game. No clever edits, no false narrative. Just the ugly truth, for everyone to see. By the end of that day, my father's company had lost 2 major contracts. Dorian issued a sudden statement, resigning from his position, citing personal reasons. My mother still would not look at me, her silence louder than any denial. Later, in Catherine's office, she asked quietly, "Do you feel satisfied now, Isolde?" I thought about it for a long moment before answering. "It is not satisfaction," I said slowly. "It is freedom." Before leaving, I opened my purse, pulled out the necklace my mother had ripped from my neck at the promotion party. I fastened it back where it belonged, the chain cool against my skin. "This time," I whispered to myself, "it stays." As I walked out into the cool evening, I felt lighter than I had in years. The city noises seemed distant, the air no longer heavy. Some doors, once slammed, should stay closed forever, but closing those doors gave me something I had never truly held before. My own life, my own power. Freedom, I realized, does not always come wrapped in peace. Sometimes it comes from standing in the middle of the storm and refusing to bend. Sometimes it comes when you stop asking for their approval and start giving it to yourself. And maybe that is the heart of it. My story is not only about betrayal, or even justice, it is about reclaiming a voice that was silenced too long. If you have ever been told to stay quiet, if you have ever been pushed into the shadows, I hope you know this. You are allowed to step into the light again. I would love to hear your thoughts, your own stories, or even the moments when you chose to stop surviving and start living. Please share them in the comments below. I read everyone because they matter. If you want to keep hearing more stories like this, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And when you comment, drop the phrase "live free again," 3 words that mean claiming yourself, your worth, and your freedom. Thank you for spending this time with me. I cannot wait to see you in the next video. Until then, take care, live free, and I will see you soon.